So what if I told you that trying to get someone to say yes is actually the fastest way to totally ruin a negotiation?
Oh, yeah. Or that, splitting the difference and meeting in the middle is usually like the absolute worst possible outcome for everyone involved.
Right. I mean, we've all been there. You're having what's supposed to be just a standard low-stakes discussion.
Totally standard.
Yeah, maybe you're hashing out a project timeline at work or bringing up a small bump in your salary.
Or even just figuring out whose turn it is to do the household chores this week.
Exactly. And then completely out of nowhere, the conversation just derails. Your heart rate shoots up, your vision narrows, and in like a fraction of a second, you either blow up in a rage or you completely shut down.
Yeah, you withdraw. And that is a pure physiological response happening in real time.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. In those high-stakes moments, the rational, advanced part of your brain literally gets hijacked by your biological fight-or-flight system.
That makes so much sense.
It does. You're suddenly trying to navigate this complex modern dispute using ancient neural wiring that was, strictly designed for escaping predators.
Right, because your body doesn't know the difference between a saber-toothed tiger and like a passive-aggressive email from your boss.
Exactly. To your amygdala, it's the exact same threat.
Okay, let's unpack this, because getting past that biological hijack is the entire mission of today's deep dive.
It's a big mission.
It is. We are synthesizing 4 of the most influential frameworks ever written on negotiation and conflict.
Oh, the heavy hitters.
Yeah, we're talking getting to yes, difficult conversations, crucial conversations, and former FBI hostage negotiator Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference.
Which is such a potent stack of sources to look at side by side, primarily because, well, at first glance, they seem to fundamentally disagree with each other.
Right, you've got Harvard versus the FBI.
Exactly. You have these classic, highly rational, logic-based approaches from the Harvard Negotiation Project. And then you have the gritty, emotion-first, street-smart tactics from international hostage negotiation.
It sounds like a clash of completely different worlds.
It does. But when you look closely at the underlying mechanics of how humans actually process information, you realize they aren't competing at all. They actually form the ultimate operating system for human interaction.
And the promise here is that by the end of this deep dive, you are going to have a complete toolkit to navigate literally any dispute.
Anywhere.
Yeah, from the boardroom to the kitchen table. Mm-hmm. And you'll do it without sacrificing your goals or your relationships.
But to build that toolkit, we have to start with the trap most of us fall into the second a disagreement starts.
The tug of war, basically.
Right, the trap of positional bargaining. This comes straight from getting to yes. It's the fundamental flaw in how society teaches us to negotiate.
Like when you just pick a side and dig in.
Yes. You stake out a position, you argue it furiously, and you try to meet in the middle. It damages relationships and creates really inefficient, unwise agreements.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Think about the classic story of the orange. 2 sisters are fighting over a single orange in the kitchen.
Well, I've heard this one.
Right, so they argue, and finally they compromise by cutting it exactly in half.
Seems fair, right?
It seems fair until you look at what happens next. One sister eats the fruit and throws away the peel. The other sister takes her half, throws away the fruit, and uses the peel to bake a cake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If they had just asked why the other wanted it, they both could have had 100% of what they wanted.
That's crazy. And there's another great one in the sources, right? The library window.
Yes, exactly. 2 men are arguing in a library. One wants the window open for fresh air. The other wants it closed to avoid a draft.
Because they're completely stuck.
Completely stuck. Until the librarian comes in, assesses the situation, and goes into the next room to open a window.
Ah, so it solves both underlying interests. Fresh air, but no draft.
Exactly, without ever compromising their original positions.
Okay, let's unpack this with a real-world analogy. It's like 2 kids fighting over a cardboard box where one wants to make a spaceship and the other wants the flaps for a canvas.
Yes, brilliant.
But, to get there, you need to understand where your power actually comes from.
Right, which brings us to your BTNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement.
Which is basically your backup plan, right?
It's your walkaway plan. And having a strong BTNA is your true source of power. If you don't actually need the deal, you hold the psychological leverage.
Okay, but here's my pushback.
Let's hear it.
What happens when the other person is totally irrational and won't play nice? I mean, you can't logic your way out of a screaming match.
No, you really can't.
Right. If my boss is acting aggressively or my partner is yelling, identifying their underlying interest feels impossible.
And you are completely right. That is the flaw of getting to, yes. It assumes rational actors.
Which we are definitely not.
Far from it. To handle irrationality and high stakes, we have to move from what we are talking about to how we are talking about it.
Which brings us to the hidden layers of conflict.
Yes, pulling from difficult conversations and crucial conversations. Every hard talk is actually 3 simultaneous conversations.
Okay, so what's the first one?
The what happened conversation. This is where we argue over facts and intent.
Intent versus impact. This is huge.
It ruins relationships. We judge ourselves by our good intentions, but we judge others by their impact on us.
Right. Like, I didn't mean to hurt you, so you shouldn't be mad.
Exactly. But good intentions do not sanitize a bad impact.
And that leads to the blame game, right?
It does. We have to shift from whose fault is this to how did we both contribute to this system?
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because we don't just blame people. We invent complete villain stories for them.
Oh, constantly.
It's exactly like road rage. If I cut someone off, it's a genuine mistake because I didn't see them.
Right. You're still a good person.
Yeah. But if they cut me off, they are a selfish monster trying to ruin my day.
We strip them of all context to protect our own narrative, which leads us to the second and third layers. The feelings conversation and the core of it all. The identity conversation.
The identity quake.
Yes. That silent panic where you ask, am I competent? Am I a good person? Humans are wired to protect their identities under stress.
And when that identity is threatened, that's when the pool of shared meaning drains.
Exactly. Imagine a pool of information between you and the other person. When safety slips, people resort to silence or violence.
Silence being masking or withdrawing, and violence being controlling or attacking.
Right. Both of which drain the pool.
So if the other person is hostile, how do we actively bring down that stress in real time?
Well, we turn to the FBI.
Enter Chris Voss and never split the difference.
Yes. Voss has this provocative rebuttal to the rational Harvard model. He says humans are not rational.
We are emotional, irrational, and impulsive.
Exactly. Emotion isn't noise in a negotiation. It is the primary medium. It's the only channel you have.
System 1 versus System 2 thinking, right?
Yes. System 1 is our reactive emotional brain. System 2 is logical. When someone is upset, System 1 is running the show.
And this is where Voss attacks the whole idea of compromise.
The myth of compromise. Let's use the shoe analogy. A husband wants to wear black shoes, the wife wants him in brown.
So splitting the difference means he wears one black and one brown shoe.
Which is a terrible outcome for everyone. It just avoids the hard work of understanding what's driving the demand.
So instead of compromising, we use what he calls tactical empathy.
Right. And 2 huge tools for that are mirroring and labeling.
Mirroring is just repeating the last 1 to 3 words, they said.
Yes, with an inquisitive tone. It causes a neurological pause. It forces their brain to elaborate.
And the labeling.
Labeling is naming their emotions, saying, it seems like you're frustrated.
Wait, doesn't that just make them more mad?
Not if you do it with genuine curiosity. It actually moves the emotion from the reactive brain to the rational brain. MRI scans literally show the amygdala calming down when an emotion is labeled.
That is wild. And there's also the whole concept of saying no.
Oh, yeah.
Beware yes and master no.
Because pushing for a yes makes people defensive.
Right.
They feel trapped.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But inviting a no, like asking, is now a bad time to talk.
Yeah.
Gives them the illusion of control. It makes them feel safe.
So what does this all mean? If I'm not supposed to compromise, and someone demands something impossible, like an insane price or a crazy deadline, how do I push back without ruining that safety we just built?
That is where you use the calibrated question.
Okay, what's that?
Specifically, you ask, how am I supposed to do that?
Wow, just like that.
Yes. But tone is everything.
Yeah.
It's a deferential way of saying no that forces the counterpart to solve your problem for you.
How am I supposed to do that? It's almost asking for their help.
Exactly. It completely short-circuits their aggression. Okay, so we have all these theories. How do we synthesize them into one coherent strategy for the listener?
Well, they actually sequence together perfectly.
Okay, walk me through.
You start with Voss's tactical empathy. You assume System 1 is in charge. You mirror, you label, and you use an accusation audit.
Wait, an accusation audit, where you list all the terrible things they might be thinking about you first.
Yes. You disarm the emotional brain right out of the gate.
So you do all that, and then what are you looking for?
You want them to feel completely heard. You are looking for them to say 2 specific words. That's right.
Not You're right.
Ever, you're right. You're right is a dismissal. That's right is a breakthrough.
Because it means their System 2 rational brain is finally coming back online.
Precisely. And once they say, that's right, you can safely transition to Fisher and Urey's rational model.
Eating two Durs.
Yes. Now you can discover those shared interests. You look for the fresh air versus the draft.
And while you're doing this, you're hunting for black swans, right?
Yes. The hidden, unknown pieces of information that can transform the entire negotiation once uncovered.
Like finding out they don't actually care about the price, they just need the project done by Friday.
Exactly. But you only find black swans if the other side feels incredibly safe.
So we aren't fighting the person across the table. We're sitting next to them, looking at the problem together, hunting for black swans.
What's fascinating here is that across all 4 books, despite their different origins, the ultimate rule remains the same.
Which is?
The person across the table is never the problem is the problem.
That is a massive shift in mindset. You're going from a battle of messages where you try to deliver a verdict and win to a learning conversation.
Yes, a conversation where you seek to understand, share, and problem solve.
It's so powerful.
It is. But I want to leave you with one final challenging thought that we didn't explicitly analyze yet.
Okay, lay it on us.
All 4 of these frameworks rely on the foundational premise that the only person's behavior you can control is your own.
Which is a tough pill to swallow sometimes.
It really is. So it raises an important question for you to mull over. How much of your external conflict with coworkers, partners, or friends is actually just an unresolved internal conversation you are having with your own identity secretly projected onto someone else?
That is, man, that completely changes how you look at your next argument.
It definitely forces you to look in the mirror.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah.
Try out a mirror or a label in your next conversation, or just ask, how am I supposed to do that?
Right.
And see what happens. We will catch you next time.